What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Landing on the Plains, all things Auburn football from someone who really lived it. Welcome back. I am your host, Chandler Wooten, former linebacker, team captain, and NFL vet. And today we got another good one for you because today we're going to be giving a position by position breakdown of your Auburn Tigers. We're going to be ranking each group who I think is the best, all the way down to the group with the most questions to answer. And then we'll finish up with who I feel like individually needs to have the biggest year for us to be successful. And it might not be who you think. So stay tuned. Starting off, getting straight into it. Starting off with the best position group on the team, who I feel like we all share that, same sentiment or opinion on for the most part. Obviously, the linebackers. They will be one of the top units, especially on paper and expectations wise. Like, I just think the upside is extremely high with this group. I think one of the underrated factors about this group is that they work directly with defensive coordinator DJ Durkin because he's also the linebackers coach, and so I think that gives them an advantage because every single week they're dialed into the game plan, and that's not to say anybody else isn't, but you're working directly with the play caller. You're getting insight information on what he's thinking, what he's looking for, things like that, and so I think from that perspective, it sets them ahead of the game. And then when you add in the talent that's in that room, the depth that's in that room, returning your top four guys from last year, and then obviously, preseason All American and Xavier Atkins, 17 TFLs last year with 9 sacks. And so I think Elijah Melendez alongside of him will take a jump this year. And then you have guys like DeMarcus Reddick, and Bryce Diaz off the bench, who's going to contribute extremely heavily. And so you talk about those four guys, it kind of reminds me of, the kind of group we had in 2019, where all four guys played, all four guys were extremely productive. And so it's going to be fun to watch. So at number one, I got the inside linebackers because of the talent, the depth that's coming back, the productivity that's coming back. I think this group is going to be excellent. It's going to be a leader for our group, especially on defense, this team. And so I'm looking forward to watching them. Number one, again, inside linebackers. Coming in at number two, we've got, and I to make it easier, I did combine the defensive line and bucks, and I also combined the safeties and the corners just for time purposes. But at number two, we've got the D line and bucks, and I think this one is, I wouldn't say it was a tough decision because I think the talent from top to bottom is one of the tops on the team. It's just they lost quite a bit last year, and so while they are coming in number two, there are some questions. And so the main question I have with this group is, where will that consistent pass rush come from? Because when you lose guys like Falk and Crawford to the draft, and even if they didn't put up huge sack numbers, but last year they demanded quite a bit of attention. They were constantly disruptive. You had to be aware of where they were at all times. And so I think coming into this year, yes, Xavier Atkins has a unique, special, skill set. He's a unique weapon for us. But we have to prove we can affect the quarterback rushing four. Like, we just have to. Because I think I mentioned it in the last episode, teams aren't just going to let 17 wreck their game. And so we've got to find somebody who is ready to take that leap, take on the, accept the challenge and be that guy, when it's the fourth quarter and it's 3rd and 8, and we've got to drop back in coverage. Can we rush four and affect the quarterback? And we've got pieces up there, right? You talk about Cody Sigler, who came in from Arkansas State. The staff raved about him in the spring. You've got guys who I expect to take leaps in their second years, and Malik Autry and Jordan Crawford. And so you also talk about a returning starter and a guy like Dallas Walker. So interior wise, we've got depth. It's going to be more guys than that play. and rotate in there as well. They like to keep guys fresh, and so they got to prove they can stop the run and then affect the quarterback. And then when you talk about the buck position, talk about a guy like Jared Smith, talk about a guy like Chris Murray coming back with experience. Then you talk about a guy coming in, you know, from Ole Miss and Deshaun Womack. And so the pieces are there. The question I have, though, like I said, is can we generate not just a solid pass rush, but like it needs to be really, really good. Affect the quarterback without blitzing and pressure. But at number two, talent wise, as far as like guys coming back from top to bottom, number two, we've got the defensive line and the Bucks. Following right behind the D line are the running backs for me. And we just got to show them some love. And obviously having one of the best backs in the league in Jeremiah Cobb, and then you add guys like Bryce Washington from Baylor, and then you add a guy like Nakai Davenport who came over with this staff, and then you still have a guy like Omar Babeson, who's still around and who I feel like we haven't seen the best of yet. And so this room is deep, like it has depth, and it's a room that not a lot of people are really talking about too much, but this room now has ability to keep Jeremiah Cobb fresh. And he was fresh a lot of times last year because we wouldn't run the damn ball. But now you feel like he'll definitely get a lot more carries. He'll get a lot more involvement in the offense, at least on a more consistent basis. Like there was times last year where it was like, damn, like do we even have a running back, on the roster? Because we were just so content on abandoning the run consistently. But I think, with this offense being able to spread teams out, we are going to run the football. And so when you have one of the best backs in the league last year who, was a damn near 1,000-yard back last year when we barely fed him the ball, he's going to be awesome. And then when you have guys like I mentioned behind him, like Bryce Washington had, 2,000 yards of offense at Baylor in 2 years with 18 touchdowns. So this kid can play. Like he can go against really good competition. Like kid can play. So when you add that to the offense, like I think one things that make this room really unique and special is like every single guy has a little bit of a different unique skill set. And so I think they'll play really well off of each other. I think, like I said, in this offense, we're going to run the football. At least we better on a consistent basis. And I think it'll make, our offense really, really go. And so at number three, I got the running backs coming right in after number three, this was probably the only tough decision for me, which one to put at three, which one to put at four. But I got the DBs just right behind the running backs, making it in at number four. I would probably say I picked the DBs at four instead of three, just because I have a few more questions on the back end than I do in that running back room. And we're going to start with the safeties, just because, man, there's a lot of talent in that safety room. Some experience coming back. You got a guy like Caleb Harris, who I think had a phenomenal freshman year, came back last year, I don't think he was bad last year. He was good. He was our third leading tackler throughout the entire season, started majority of the season. But I think he did take a step back from when you look at his freshman year to, the expectations you may have had for him coming into the season last year. I think he took a step back. And so I would like to see him, really come into this year like ready to go, ready to go. Because if he's, you know, can get back to, that projection that he was on after his freshman year, headed into this year, that would just, elevate our entire defense because, he's a really good player. And so then when you have guys like Sylvester Smith and Champ Anthony, I want and need Champ Anthony to stay healthy because he's like a wild card back there, man. Like he can play, man. He can play. And so I just hate that he hasn't been able to stay healthy because he's a guy who's a leader back there, and you need that back there. Like, he was a captain last year, bro. Like we need him to stay healthy, man. Just from a leadership perspective, from experience perspective, and the kid can play. Like you need multiple and multiple and multiple DBs back there throughout the season. You do. Like yes, you have 4 or 5 starters to start the season, but man, it's gonna be 10 plus that contribute throughout the season. Injuries unfortunately happen, so and guys are gonna have special packages that they go in on. And so like guys have to stay ready, stay prepared. And so, Those three guys I mentioned, they all have experience. They've all played in this system. And so I'm looking forward to them, and they got to be big time for us. And then you still have the pair of the young guys who I'm really high on, and Eric Winters and Anquan Fagans. Those two young guys decided to come back together. They obviously love playing together. They obviously have built a relationship and a bond, and they can both go. They can both go. So if there's anything that's going on in that safety room, above them, I expect them to come in and, handle business. And I expect them to come in and handle business regardless because they need to play. They need to play. And I think they will. And so when you have a safety room like that with depth, guys who can play safety, a couple guys who can also play nickel, will play nickel for us. You also brought in a guy like Fred Gaskins, you know, from USF as well. Like the room is deep, and I probably feel like one of the biggest question marks I have with this room come from the corner position, more so than the safety room. Just because you lose your top two guys to the portal, we all know that. But we have, a guy who is returning in Rayshawn Pleasant, who got a lot of playing time last year, especially towards the end of the season, and he's a really good player. And I think the question for him will be, especially going into camp, like you're projected to be the number one guy outside. From an experience standpoint, you being in the system, having played last year, played pretty well too when he got in there. And so, can he take that leap into being, one of those guys out there? And so we brought in some guys from the portal, some depth added to the room, some talented guys as well. It's just a matter of finding, somebody opposite of him and then him taking that step, taking that leap. Like, I'm the guy out here, and this is what we're going to roll with. And so I know the staff was high on guys like, Gavin Jenkins coming out of spring, brought in, a guy from UCLA and Andre Jordan Jr. Like, we got some players, we got some guys, a few other guys as well. I think it's just a matter of, like I said, finding the right guys to play in the secondary at the right, places and the right spots at the right time and the right packages. So some of that is on the staff, some of that is on these guys, to perform in practice and, especially come camp time, show what they're made of, earn that trust. So at number 4, we had the DBs. Coming in at number 5, got the quarterbacks. And I think this one is interesting because I wanted to put this one a little higher, but I just think we are so good and talented defensively. It's kind of hard, but that's not to say I don't think our quarterbacks are good because they're damn good. Obviously, you got Byron Brown, transfer from USF, who's going to be our starter, and I expect him to be big time. Like, he possesses a unique skill set that will allow him to be in a system that he's familiar with. He understands. He knows. He can make checks. He knows what he's looking at. I don't think anything, will necessarily surprise him. Like, he's comfortable in this scheme and system. The only thing you have to question is, can he do it at this level? Which is fair. We haven't seen it yet. We've seen it in games, but it's different when you have to do it week in and week out. So I think that's a very reasonable question to have. But I also don't doubt that it'll happen. I think he'll have some ebbs and flows, ups and downs. That's every player. But I think, overall, when we look back at the end of the season, I think we'll be pleased with what we saw from him. And then you talk about even his backup, who, and Tristan Tia, who was amazing in the spring game. We all raved about him. So if anything were to happen, I feel like for the first time in a while, we can maybe look at the quarterback and be like, hey, I don't necessarily feel terrible about the backup coming in. I feel good. And so, coming in at number 5, quarterbacks. Next in line at number 6, the receivers. And I say the receivers because we lost quite a bit, just talent-wise, production-wise. And so I think just the room just comes with some questions. And I don't think it's a lack of talent. I think the talent is there. Brought in, quite a few guys from USF, which means I honestly think that gives us an advantage because they know the system. They understand where to be, how to line up, where to line up, shifts, motions, communication, verbiage, like that matters. Experience matters, and then the talent is there. And then just around those guys, we've got young talent as well. And so with this system, the ability to spread it out, guys get to their spots, get the ball in their hands, make plays. I expect to see some really, really good games from guys, big years from guys. So coming in at number 6, wide receivers. Number 7, we got the O line. I think the questions on this position group with this position group is fair. I think they brought in some really talented guys on the offensive line and transfers, guys from James Madison, Miami, etc. I've been saying it. The only thing about this group is going to be how they mesh and how they gel, how they communicate. Like that's how you build an elite offensive line. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there's a game or two that they struggle early, just from a communication standpoint, little checks here and there, things like that. But what I want to see from this offensive line is them just be like mean, nasty, like run the football when teams know we're going to run the football and protect the quarterback. Yeah, I can live with the rest, but like, yeah, those penalties from last year, all those false starts, that's killing me. That was killing me. And so I think just them playing discipline, protecting 17, and then just running the football, that'll be a great year from them. But coming in, as far as right now, just got them at number 7. Number 8, I got the specialists, kickers and punters. And honestly, this is about right, just because unless you got an All-American at kicker and punter, you're going to have them towards the bottom of the list. So this is not to say that our specialists are bad. It's just, that's just what it is. But I'm very, very pleased to see Alex McPherson, back, healthy, look really good in the spring game. Obviously got his leg strength back, gaining some muscle and some strength back. And that was awesome to see. And so I think from that standpoint, us being able to, hey, get around that 30, 35-yard line and feel good about a field goal attempt, that'll be big time for us. I've said it before. There were times last year, where we were even around the 20-yard line. You didn't feel good about a field goal. That's not a good feeling. That's not a good feeling. And so I think for us to be able to go and get some points, if there were a few games last year, if we were able to just kick a couple field goals, man, or feel good about our kicker, we probably win another game or two, to be honest with you. And so I think that'll be big time for us. So specialists I got coming in at number 8. And last but not least, rounding out the list, I got tight ends at number 9. And I've only got them at number 9 just because, man, this is really a position for us. Like, man, it's really just we've got to turn it around. And that's not to say that they won't or they can't, but it's been rough. It's been really rough. And so when you look at just guys, we had to, reinvent the room, essentially, reinvent the room, guys coming in for the first time, some very talented guys with some size, ability, and things like that. But I just want to see them more involved. Like, man, it would be awesome to see us have a tight end, we could throw the ball to on a consistent basis. That would be lovely. Lovely. And I think we all could agree on that. And so I think that's something we've been wanting for a while. They're going to be big time in the run game as well. Being able to line in different spots, move and things like that. But I want to see us create some mismatches with some tight end, hit some tight ends up the seam, tight end screens, things like that. Like, let's get creative and use those guys. And so that's the only reason why I got them at 9, just because of the history, and just because of the lack of production that we have returning or coming back from that position. But that's not to say that they'll stay at number 9. But at number 9 right now, we got the tight ends. Man, that wraps up the list right there, 1 through 9. And before we wrap it up and finish up, man, just going to give my one person or one player from each side of the ball who I feel like we need to have an extremely big year for us to be successful. And I'm just going to give one guy from each side of the ball, offense and defense. And I'm going to start with offense. And this guy is somebody who I feel like if he has a big year, that means we had a big year. And it's Jeremiah Cobb. Just because I feel like last year, if I'm putting myself in his shoes, I wasn't happy with my output last year. Like I'm 1,000 yard back, and I didn't reach that. Like, and I know football is not about individual goals and things like that, but I know how good I can be, and I know I was underused last year, and I know I'm 1,000 yard back, so I'm pissed off. I'm pissed off. I'm looking at these, I know it doesn't matter, but I know these kids see this stuff, man. Like they're online 24/7. It's 2026. And these pages and these rankings, like they're just completely forgetting about Jeremiah Cobb as if he's, just some run of the mill or middle of the pack running back. And so if I'm him, I'm kind of pissed off, man, because I'm like, yo, I know I'm 1,000 yard back. I've been waiting my turn patiently. I was underused last year. Give me the rock. Give me the rock. And so I think, man, if we can come out, establish the run, like he's going to have his opportunities. And then with the way we're going to spread teams out, like it's going to be a numbers game. We're going to be playing numbers game. So he's going to see it. He's going to see some light boxes. Like you got to respect the way we line up. And so then when you add in the fact that we're going to switch it up and go up tempo, wear teams down, I expect him to have a big year. And if he has a big year, that means we had a big year. Like just looking at it in totality, because that'll make everything open up for our offense. That'll open up the passing game. Jeremiah Cobb having a big year, that'll open up the running game for 17 as well, quarterback. And obviously nothing happens, for Jeremiah Cobb without, everybody else working together on one accord, receivers blocking, tight ends blocking, line blocking. But if number 23 has a big time year, that means our offense had a big time year. So for the offense, I got Jeremiah Cobb. Defensively, probably won't be who you expect. But my answer, man, defensively is Rayshawn Pleasant. And I alluded to it a little bit earlier just because, man, we need somebody out there who is going to be that guy. We're going to play a ton of talented receivers, quarterbacks, play callers. We need a dude out there, man, who you line up and say, yeah, we're going to send some pressure. But I need you to lock down the number one guy 1-on-1. And obviously it won't be every play, but there are going to be plenty of plays throughout games, throughout the season, where we need him to show up and be that guy. And I say him because he's the guy returning with experience. He's the guy who presumably has the position or one of the corner spots locked down. And so I'm looking at him. Guy with experience going into his last year, senior year. It's time. The speed is there. The talent's there. But if he has a big year at corner, like our linebackers are elite. Our defensive line and Bucks are good. I talked about our safeties earlier. They're good. So we can get a lot of production or really, really quality play, good play, great play out of our corners. Our defense is going to be crazy. So those are my two players that we need to have really big years in order for us to have successful seasons. Man, that's all I got for today. I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you like this episode, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And as always, War Eagle.